Our average click-through rate is 9%, which is well above the usual 2 to 6% in our niche. But this isn't just a one-off that I'm showing you. We've tested these click-through strategies across multiple of our client channels across different niches. If you want more people clicking on your videos, I'm breaking down exactly what tweaks we made to our thumbnails. So I'm going to share 5 key things that we did to improve our thumbnails. The first thing we noticed is paying attention to the text. What's the text on the thumbnail? But not just that. When we have text that speaks directly to a particular desire or a pain point that our targeted viewer can relate to, we see a better click-through rate. Now, let me show you an example of this. And I want to preface this by saying not all thumbnails need text. You don't have to include text if the image itself tells a compelling story enough for them to click. But when you do have text, it's very important to take a look at what you're saying on there. The fewer words, the better. We definitely don't put more than 5 words on the thumbnail. And we always try to say something different than the title that goes along with the video. So let's show you an example. This is one of our clients' videos, and she did a video on 7 ways to legally hide money from the IRS. And we tried out a bunch of different thumbnails. So as you can see here, this one over here, the text says build wealth and avoid taxes. This one says legally hidden from the IRS, so something similar to the title, which did better than this one here. But the one that outperformed is this one right here. So it says save thousands on taxes. Now, save thousands on taxes is directly tied to actually both. It's a desire. People want to save money, but also a pain point, taxes. It addresses both at once. Whereas these two, with this, again, it's copying the title, doesn't really fully say anything about a desire or a pain point that speaks directly to the viewer. And this, build wealth, that's something that people want, and avoid taxes, that's also something that people want. But it's more vague, right? People can really connect more with something specific, like saving on taxes, than avoiding taxes, which is actually not legal, and building wealth. So yeah, this is what I wanted to share in terms of when we did an A/B test. This first one outperformed the other 2. Now, yes, the images are different and there's other variables at play, but when we have text that specifically is driven with a desire or pain point in mind, we do see better click-through rates. And by the way, side note, when you do A/B testing in YouTube for thumbnails, they actually don't give you click-through rates. They give you watch time. They give you a percentage of the winning thumbnails generated based on which one resulted in higher watch time percentage. So that's a whole other video that I want to do and talk about, because it should be click-through rates. The second tip is to focus on one main focal point or clear idea in your thumbnail. So I'm in the back end, just to show you an example of what this means. I'm in the back end of our YouTube channel, and you can see here the ones with the higher click-through rates have a very clear main focal point. So this one has a click-through rate of 25%, over 3,000 views, which is an amazing click-through rate. And you can see here, the thumbnail is very simple. There's an image of Jewel, my business partner. This is her video. Very clear text, and then clear icons that relate to the text. So the Facebook icon and the time, or the clock image here. If we go to something like this, which has a lower fold, actually, let me choose something that's even lower. What's this 3% one? So there's a lot of different things that are going on in this one, right? This is a 3.9 click-through rate with over 2,000 views. This is only in the last 90 days. And there's a lot going on there. Yes, there's an image. Yes, there's text. There's also Zoom and the Zoom logo. There's an icon of a camera. There's an icon of a calendar with some paint smear on it. And there's 3 different fonts going on here in this particular thumbnail. So whenever you try a lot of different things and add so many different elements, we do typically see lower click-through rates. Let's just scroll down and see a bunch of other examples. So here, 2.9. Okay, so this one, yeah, you can see, again, there's so many different types of design styles in this one thumbnail alone. So we have Jewel, and she has this outline around her. We have the text with outlined bars around it. We have some glowing text, which is really hard to read, especially on mobile when it's small. There's a monitor with a YouTube logo on it, but again, it's kind of fuzzy and small, and something else going on back here, which I don't know what that is. Looks like a mothball or something. And then there's also this background texture and everything. So there's a lot of different, not just elements, but styles and textures going on in this thumbnail. This is pretty pretty clear text, examples of flyers, and then a photo of me and the Photoshop icon. So again, one clear main idea and focal point generally do better. Especially if you're optimizing your video for search and you're matching what they are searching for with the image, or you're matching what's in the thumbnail with what they're searching for. And that is a clear connect, like, oh yeah, that's what I'm looking for, and I'm going to click on the video. Very clear, and they don't have to spend mental capacity or brain power to figure out what this video is about. The third thing that leads to better click-through rates, better thumbnails, is your use of color and contrast. So on the thumbnails, because especially a lot of people see this on mobile, you need to make sure that you have a lot of color contrast, meaning the colors that lay on top of the background or whatever it is you have going on in the background, they need to pop and stand out. And to give you an example, this is another one of our clients. You can see here a dark blue background. The white pops really nicely on top of it. And we even have some extra added blue shades here and like alternating the colors. So there's good color contrast. There's a light, in this case, a lighter background with a darker text. In this case, a darker background with a lighter text. And same thing with here. Whereas something like this is a little bit harder to see, especially with the drop down, like the white shadow on here. You see how, and this too, like this is a white text on top of a light blue background. And to help it out a bit more, we tested doing like a darker shadow but then to help make it pop. But then we really saw it's better to just forget the shadow, because it's, again, not as clear. What makes it pop better is a dark background and just clean white text on top of it. And if I had to go look at the click-through rates for this, and if I had to guess, I'd probably see that these had better click-through rates. Actually, let's go do that. Let's go hop into the back end of his channel and check out the click-through rates. So I'm just at the back end of John's channel, which is fairly new at the time of this recording. And I filtered by just having it show us long form videos, because those are the ones with thumbnails, rather than seeing the shorts. See that right there at the very top. So this is actually up here. This is an unlisted video. I know that. So that's not really relevant to what we're talking about. It's not shown in the search or suggested or anything. So I would look next to these ones here. And these were the ones that I showed you back in Canva. These have the highest click-through rates. So we're talking about this one and this one and this one. And then as we start to head further down, the ones that have a mix of like different colors with the peach and the light blue, and even like this light shadow behind a gradient blue background and the light blue on top of the peach, these have the lower ones. And again, I know there's other variables that might be involved, but it was actually really cool to see that right off the bat, these ones that pop more have the highest click-through rate in when we look at contrast and color. By the way, if you're finding this video helpful, would really appreciate you hitting the like button, as it helps more people find this content. The fourth thing to keep in mind is to prioritize clarity. Now, this goes for both the design side of things and the text. You want the text to be very clear, again, to not make people think about what this means. And you also want to make sure things design-wise are big enough, because they are tiny when they're seen on mobile. It needs to be readable at a glance. And that's why sometimes when we design thumbnails, we make it purposely really, really tiny. Like if you're designing it on Canva, there's a zoom feature at the bottom where you can turn it down to like 20 or 30% and see what it looks like when the thumbnail's really tiny. If you are trying to squint to see what it says or see certain elements on it, then you probably need to make things a lot bigger. An example of this is when we did a test on these two thumbnails of ours. You can see here one has a photo of me and it has the words podcast tutorial in really, really big, and it has the YouTube icon pretty big as well. We tested this against this thumbnail, which also has a photo of me. It also has a photo of Jewel, but it's a lot smaller, and there's a title on the thumbnail that is kind of hard to see here. But all of these elements, basically what we wanted to do is give an example of a podcast, of what that looks like on the phone, right? Because this video is about putting your podcast on YouTube. So when we did this, you can clearly see that this one took the lead. It's a lot simpler, very simple text and simple background, just basic elements on this canvas right here. And it was a huge difference in terms of what YouTube considers is the winning thumbnail. According to watch time, is 67% of people who clicked on this thumbnail ended up watching way longer. So this was a better match. And one of the biggest differences between the two is that this piece right here is a lot smaller and kind of hard to see. There's a lot of different elements going on as well, which relates back to a previous tip that I just shared. This doesn't pass the squint test, but this one does. And the final tip that I'll share with you that has really helped us improve our thumbnails is creating thumbnails that are consistent to your branding, but they have flexibility in terms of making sure we align with all these other tips that I just shared. So clarity and contrasting colors and all these things, because sometimes you'll have branding that is really light in colors. You want to throw in a deeper color in there to create that contrast in the bold so that it captures attention in the design. And sometimes we have fonts. We use fonts in our branding that are not really great for thumbnails because it's kind of hard to see, like the handwriting font that I shared with you on some of our thumbnails. So yes, you can use certain elements for brand recognition, but make sure you're prioritizing clarity and easy to see. And another example of this that I wanted to show you is this client of ours who used a lot of this font in her branding, and we wanted to test it out and see how it goes. But eventually we're like, oh, we need to switch over entirely to this block font because, let's just test it out and see. This might be hard to read sometimes with these serif fonts versus the sans serif fonts, if you know what that means. But when they start to have little accents and flicks on the fonts, at a glance, it's just easier to read when it's this block kind of text. So we went from these kinds of thumbnails to just straight up, you can see here, blocks, block text. Just straight up block text. And we actually saw an improvement in the click-through rate by at least, I think it was 1.2% in click-through rate. So you definitely want to take these tips, which will give you a strong foundation, and test them. Test them against your own channel. You always want to be in a competition with yourself and do A/B thumbnail tests on your channel. Remember that your thumbnails plus the title of your video is the video packaging. It's what creates a first impression to help a potential viewer decide whether or not they want to click on that video and watch it. So you can have really, really great videos and great content, but if you have bad thumbnails, you're not going to get the reach that your channel deserves. And if you're like, how the heck do I run those thumbnail A/B tests, by the way, you can actually watch this video here. I outline exactly our process on what we do to find the right videos to test thumbnails on and how to actually administer the A/B thumbnail test. Once you have clarity on how to create better thumbnails, the next step is to figure out how the content and what you're saying in the videos can actually produce the results you're looking for, whether that's more sales, more email signups, more opportunities. And if that's the next step for you, then head down to the description because I've included a link to a free training. on turning YouTube into an asset for your business. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.